everyone. Welcome to Dragons, Gazelles, and Unicorns, and happy Lunar New Year. I'm Rosemary Truman, the founder and CEO of the Center for Advancing Innovation, and this podcast is going to be very special with Maurice Jones. He's Mr. Connecting Talent with Opportunity. Through OneTen, Maurice leads a coalition of leading chief executives and their companies who are coming together to upskill, hire, and advance 1 million Black individuals who do not yet have a four-year degree into family-sustaining jobs with opportunities for advancement over the next 10 years. He's trained as an attorney with deep expertise in both the public and private sectors, and I think he has a halo right here.
Yeah.
He's a very special gentleman, and he was a Rhodes Scholar. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa. He had a master's degree in international relations from the University of Oxford. I did my PhD work at Oxford in software engineering. So we were there maybe at the same time, perhaps. So I'm going to hand it over to Maurice to have him provide a better overview of his background and a little bit of his journey about how he got to where he is.
It was nice to be with you, and you did. Thank you for that kind intro. I think what I would focus on is how I got over to OneTen. The OneTen journey, I was actually at an organization, as you know, called LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation, where we were working on primarily providing access to capital as a way to combat, if you will, or close the opportunity and wealth gap in our country. And along came folks telling me about this effort that was being started in the private sector amongst some of the country's largest and most illustrious corporate brands, focusing on access to really living wage jobs and careers for folks who did not have four-year degrees, specifically Black talent without four-year degrees. And that mission for me was and is completely compelling and was so on point with all the work that we were trying to do with respect to closing the wealth and opportunity gap in the country that I thought, yep, I got to give this a good look. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to come over and try to lead this startup effort. And thus I landed here in March of 2021. And the rest is an ongoing history, if you will, because we got lots of work to do. But I'm really, really excited to be working on this with primarily folks in our largest employers who understand that they've got to change the way that they go about hiring, that they go about assessing, advancing, promoting, upskilling talent, particularly Black talent without four-year degrees.
Mm. So how are they going about it?
So the goal that they've put on the table, if you will, is to hire and promote 1 million Black talent who don't have four-year degrees into family-sustaining jobs and careers over 10 years. To actually start at the end, already from March 2021 to the end of September of 2022, the companies, and there are about 70 of them that have joined this commitment, have hired and promoted over 73,000 Black talent without four-year degrees into these family-sustaining jobs, meaning the jobs must pay at a minimum the living wage where the job resides. And the way that it works, if you will, is I would think of it as an ecosystem, right? You need employers who have demand for talent. They've got jobs. You need talent. You need Black talent without four-year degrees, right? That's the supply, if you will. You need organizations that can equip that talent for success in those jobs. And you need and we call them talent developers. And you need organizations that have the ability to provide the other supports that talent really need to thrive. And what I mean by that is childcare that's affordable and reliable and accessible, transportation that's affordable, reliable, and accessible and efficient, coaches, mentors, mental wellness. The goal here is to create an ecosystem that marries the employers, the talent developers, and the talent support providers into one high functioning team, and to do that throughout the country. And so we have a tech platform that does it all virtually, that matches these players, if you will, via a virtual setting. And then we've got about 25 places in the country that range from Boston to Miami to Chicago to Houston to Seattle to LA, where we're attempting to knit together this ecosystem and scale it in those places. Our role in all of this really is to be that intermediary that attempts to facilitate the knitting together and the scaling of these ecosystems. But I would think of it as, it's an ecosystem approach. There's no one sector or no one player that can get this entire body of work done alone. You need to have teammates. You need to be a great teammate. And so that's the work that we're attempting to pursue to achieve this mission.
Okay. So you need to be a teammate and have great teammates.
Absolutely.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, especially when you're, and I would say that you're doing more than just ecosystem because you're very humble. You create communities. What you do is really create communities that can meld together.
That's fair. I mean, at the end of the day, we are attempting to bridge communities, right? Because most often these companies and this talent sit in the same place 10 to 15 minutes apart if you were driving, but worlds apart if you talk about experience. And so what we're attempting to do is, to your point, we're attempting to bridge these communities. We're attempting to really inspire the ability for each of those communities to trust the other, right? Because due to history and experiences, there is definitely distrust on all parts of the ecosystem that has to be eliminated or healed in order for us to truly have an effective outcome when it comes to bridging the communities. And yes, that's a big part of the work.
So you mentioned, due to history and experiences on all parts, that you're inspiring these communities to come together, which I know, based on your trailblazing and the work you've done in the past, you will of course achieve. What do you think the major factors are in the healing process?
So let's think about it, right? So if you're the company, right, the job there that we have is to inspire trust that there is Black talent without four-year degrees that can do the work that you want to be done, can do it excellently, that is available, that has the skill sets, and that you can actually appeal to and leverage, right? So that talent is really there. If you're Black talent without four-year degrees, living 10 minutes from a company that you've been living 10 minutes from for generations, and now all of a sudden, that company wants to hire you. You're saying, really? They see me now? I've been here. My folks have been here for years. Now, how is it that now they want to hire me? So if you have to believe that the company, you have to trust that company, or you have to acquire the trust that company really wants you and wants all of you, right? Not just some part of you, not just the part that is quote unquote acceptable in a corporate setting, but all of you. And then if you're those organizations that work in between the talent developers and the organizations that are providing these supports, you really have to inspire trust there that, yes, folks really care about this talent that you're investing in. And if you make that investment, there will be a return on that investment for the talent at the end. And so the trust issues or the trust opportunities amongst these players are immense. And frankly, they differ in degree depending on what community that you're in. But we have to always remember that that's a big piece of the work to be done, right? To create, to sustain, and to scale trust, or said another way, to make sure that we are giving one another the benefit of the doubt, so that when something goes wrong, we don't walk away from the journey. No player walks away from the journey. The player gives the other player the benefit of the doubt and says, okay, let's go to the next play. And so that level of trust, that sort of depth of trust, only comes through working in proximity over and over and over and over again, making mistakes and forgiving one another and getting better and refining the relationship and going from transactions to relationships. That's the work to be done.
No, I can relate to the transactions to relationships. My career has been in corporate America for the most part, and now I'm in the startup world, and we're nicknamed the Tinder for startups, and the Shark Tank on steroids is pretty funny actually. But the thing is that I find, if I look at my board of directors, for example, they are relationship oriented. They're not transaction oriented, and the transactions, okay, I'm going to hire you for XYZ purpose, but the thing is that you never do whatever. When you hire someone, you never hire someone for XYZ. You actually hire them from A to Z. And if you're put in a box, then people are normally not too happy about being put in a box. But several corporations do that, and I think that's the transaction orientation, and the relationship orientation is very different. I was fortunate in my career to be able to work across all industries and in strategy consulting, and so we had to build a relationship with each of the sector leadership groups. Otherwise, you would not sell anything. But I want to pinpoint something that you mentioned, that you are inspiring trust and you're investing. And there will be a return on investment because you inspired the trust first, and then you build a relationship. And I feel keenly that it's critical across my entire career when I think about it. And I think the other thing I'll just mention to you, it's very interesting. I had someone, I'm going to tell you this little story. It's a funny little story. So I had a guy on my board. I was asking him this question about this person called me Anne Marie, not Rosemary. And I was like, wondering, how could that be interchangeable, or, you know? And then the gentleman said, Rosemary, give him the benefit of the doubt. So he just said what exactly you just said. He said, you know, he's probably talking to Siri, and, you know, I talk to my Siri all the time, and Siri doesn't necessarily, doesn't necessarily understand me all the time. So, yeah, so they're getting the benefit of the doubt on many different levels is just key.
Yes, no question about it. No question.
And so, what would you recommend to people? I know you're going to have to run here soon, but I have a couple more questions. So
we're good. We're good.
Yeah. So, how do you recommend, or how do you determine, how do you build the trust? I mean, if you're going to give some recommendations on how do you build the trust when because you're hiring, but, you know, when I've hired hundreds of people, and sadly I've hired lots of people too, but the obviously that's not, I was, you never burn a bridge. So but when I treat everybody who I work with as a colleague, right-hand person. And if they say I'm wrong, I'm probably am. So occasionally occasionally when they say I'm wrong, I'm right. But but the thing is that that's occasionally, because they think deeply about things, and they have different levels of interpreting circumstances, and it's really, really great because some of them have street smarts. Like, I have no idea how they got that. I mean, I don't even know how they learned it. And some of them have, their PhDs that have, they can talk about neuroscience all day long. But the inspiring the trust thing, I mean, normally it just takes time. But I don't know if you have some suggestions for.
Well, I mean, I think I certainly would agree with you that there is it takes time piece to it. I think we've seen there are other pieces as well. One is creating opportunities for proximity, right? One of our companies, for example, has chosen to, on the weekends, go out and have career fairs and even hiring on the spot in Black communities in their town.
I want to know about that.
And that is powerful, right? And that proximity, your being there, really shows the residents, whoa, wait a minute. These folks, if they have actually taken the time and the care to come to my house and talk to me about what they're doing and show me some love and that they want me, that's a big deal. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And so, creating these opportunities for proximity, they're huge ways to break down the distrust, or at least to position people to receive you better. And then, of course, there is you start hiring in a significant way from talent pools that you have not been hiring heretofore in significant ways. That word gets around. And again, it creates the kind of goodwill that enables you to build a relationship. And so I think you're seeing all of the above take place, and it works. It definitely works.
Okay, so now I'm all excited because I just love it. You have these many platinum nuggets. I wouldn't even say they're gold, they're better than gold. So diamond nuggets, maybe. The idea about the proximity. So I'm not getting to all my questions because I keep wanting to dig into some of the things you mentioned because they're really fantastic, fabulous, marvelous, etc. So are there other ways that you would recommend the proximity, the example you gave about the career fairs nearby, that you're going into their neighborhood, in their house? What are there other suggestions you would provide on that level?
Yeah, I think what we're also finding is that technology enables you to begin to have relationships with folks as well in ways that are more efficient than you could do without it. And so I've participated, for example, in actual interviews where companies would do online career fairs or online gatherings to share with people what they're about and to meet people. And literally, you're signing up for appointments online and having one-on-one conversations with people in the company if you're a prospective employee. And so I've seen folks use technology pretty effectively too, to create something close to proximity. It still isn't as powerful as in person. So, but it can definitely create an opportunity, an atmosphere that allows you to actually begin to, build a new kind of relationship with folks. And so the technology piece, I would highlight as well as definitely a tool that can be really helpful in this journey.
So I'm going to switch topic for a second. So we are working on an Economic Development Administration grant that is trying to boost the community in Ward 4 in particular, in the DC area, because the biggest discrepancy between Blacks and whites in terms of salary gap is actually right there. And what we're trying to do is focus on the people who don't have a living wage. They may not even, they'll have a high school degree, but they don't have a 4-year degree, for example. And they have a lot of talent, and the talent and opportunity gap remains. So we're trying to close the gap. We're working on it. What we wanted to do is try to expose people, like people outside of that area, to that area. And we haven't had a giant amount of success with it. So the obstacle is that, people, we don't know exactly what the obstacle is. But for example, when I have, if I have a party at my house, I have like 50 to 100 people at my house, right? So I hope I'm not the thorn, even though my name was Rosemary. It's getting the people. You need to connect the people together. You need to connect with people, and there seems to be sometimes some barriers. And I don't know if you have a sense of what the barriers might be and what the root cause of those are.
Now, in this case, are you talking about barriers to actually?
I'm trying to actually get the people from outside of the area to inside of the area so that we can showcase. So I mean, there's some fantastic restaurants there. I want them to be able to connect with the talent in that area. And so
I see.
Talent there.
You want the employers to be able to connect with them.
Yeah.
Again, I think the employers need to go to those neighborhoods, to those communities. The employers also need to build relationships with people and organizations that are working in those areas, right? The already trusted channels, whether it's houses of worship or whether it's community development corporations or particular folks who are influential. That's the way, or that's an effective way to really get invited into these areas, get the benefit of the doubt from the residents of these areas, and create an opportunity for mutual mutual visitation, if you will, both employers in those areas, and then residents feeling like they would be welcomed into these employers' places as well. And so we should definitely make sure that people don't overlook the assets that are there to reach out to, that can be trusted intermediaries, if you will.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Wisdom. So we're kind of rounding the clock down. So, I will just say that we would love to work with you on trying to align with you on exactly what you're doing, and anything we can do to help or work with you, collaborate with you, we'd love to do that.
Well, I'd love to stay in contact on all of this stuff and figure out ways that we can collaborate. So I definitely take you up on that offer.
Okay, very good, very good. So in 30 seconds, what does the future look like?
I think the future is bright. Look, I think more and more folks are understanding that we need to take a skills-first approach to the way in which we are managing talent. Hire based on skills, assess based on skills, promote and advance based on skills. And there are lots of barriers, including requiring credentials for jobs instead of focusing on skills, that we have an opportunity to eliminate, to really create more opportunities for talent to come into our great organizations, for talent to be able to start new organizations, and for these organizations to be able to access talent that they're currently leaving on the sideline. It will create more broadly shared prosperity for everybody. And so I would just encourage us to continue this skills-first journey that we are already on as a country, and particularly as a corporate community within the country.
That's perfect. And so, you know what, Maurice, I'll just say one thing. So sometimes, when you hire people, you see skill, you see talent, right? And there's the skills are kind of latent. What I mean by that is there's a skill in this area that can be developed that can drive into lots of areas. So I totally agree with you, because I like malleable people who are really smart. It's I wouldn't even hear that. So, it's true though, because skill comes in many different forms.
It does.
You can direct it in different ways. Yeah.
The bottom line is there is genius everywhere.
Yeah.
It is opportunity that we have to make more present. That's our jobs.
Well, that's a perfect ending, Maurice. I want to just thank you again very much.
Yeah, nice to be with you.
I'm very grateful.